Well, how's everybody doing? We're here in New York City, and this is Bob Gums, and you know the name of the show, The Concerned Forum. And just a brief weather report. It's kind of cloudy out there. I do believe it's going to rain. As a matter of fact, it's going to be raining through the rest of the week here in New York. And because of that, I have decided to bring my umbrella. Yes, indeed. Now, we have quite a few things to go over, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because these are the type of things that we really shouldn't have to go over. We really should not have to have a chief executive, which is what our president is. He's our chief executive. And we really shouldn't have to tell this guy, hey, you need to behave like a gentleman. Well, apparently we do. Now, I'm getting worried. And I think most intelligent people in this country are also getting very worried. I'll tell you why. We have a president that's sitting down doing an interview, and he just casually says, in response to a question that was asked by George Stephanopoulos from ABC, well, what would you do if you were offered information, negative information from a foreign government? And our president, right? Our president, what does he say? He says, yeah, I would take it. And Stephanopoulos says, well, hey, don't you think you should inform the FBI? And Donald says no. Now, you think about that for a second. You're the president of the United States. There's at least half a dozen laws on the book that says for your election campaign, you cannot take anything from foreign governments, right? And Trump, he sits there and he just blows it off. Like, yeah, everybody does it. Well, no, Donald. Everyone doesn't do it. As a matter of fact, it was such earth-shattering news, him saying that I forget her specific title, but she is the lady that she is in charge of, all elections, right? I believe she's appointed, and it's one of those appointment jobs where you get appointed and the tenure of the job might last 15 years or something of that, something that long. The reason for that, the theory behind that is so that that office does not get political, so that the next president that comes in, can't say, well, I don't like this person, so I'm just bouncing them out. It doesn't work that way. And she had to put out a letter across the country saying that, yeah, well, what the president said is illegal, in so many words. And see, this is what bothers me. Oh, I should say this is one of the main things. Excuse me a second. Listen, I don't know who this is, but you're going to have to call me back. I'm on the air right now. Thank you. as I was saying, this is one of the things that really disturbs me, that we have a president that has no respect for our laws. Now, you go out in other parts of the country, or I should say in some parts of the country, and you hear people saying, "Oh, well, I voted for Trump because he was going to shake things up," right? Well, I think that people who say those sorts of things, they themselves really need to be questioned about their patriotism and about their maturity. This is the 21st century, all right? This is a high tech, whether we like it or not. This is a world full of high tech, okay? One guy sitting at the North Pole could blow up Washington, D.C. just by pushing a button, okay? So the idea that you're going to vote for somebody because you think that he is going to shake things up, well, first of all, I think you need to specify just what it is that you need shaken. If we're going to be James Bond, how does he always say it? Shaken, not stirred, his martini, well, that's fine. But when you're talking about the person that's supposed to be the leader of the so-called free world, I think that shaking things up that gives us a whole different connotation. Oh, well, I have a big house and I'm a lousy housekeeper and everything's all, junky and crowded, and I need somebody to come by and really shake the house up. Well, that's cool. That's cool. But by the same token, I don't want somebody to bring in a huge elephant and just smash, completely smash the whole house down. And unfortunately, that's what Trump is about. You're talking about business, you're talking about economics. Ask people who deal in economics, international economics, ask them how they feel about leaders of important nations that want to shake things up. What that does for countries' economies, right? And stability. So, I think that unfortunately a lot of folks, they saw this last election as an opportunity to basically try to obtain some type of, I don't know, feeling or some type of vindication for their own issues in life that they're dealing with. And to tell you the truth, that's kind of dangerous. I mean, we all have axes to grind, okay, for a number of different issues. But it doesn't do any good to just chop the house down. And that's one of the things that really bothers me about this whole Trump phenomena. Listen, my main love is what I'm doing here. And hopefully as time goes on, I'll get better and better at it. But in the meantime, I still have to subsist. I still have to eat. I still have to maintain a place to live. And I tell you, quite frankly, that is very difficult for me to do because for some strange reason, all these programs that are set up supposedly to help veterans obtain employment, they're really full of crap. I could bring you a list. Just about every one that you can think of here in New York City that's supposed to help veterans, I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money, or however they get their grants. But you know what? I don't want to see the city blown up. I don't want to see the city torn down. I don't want to see the state torn down. I don't want to see the federal government torn down. I want things fixed so that they operate on a decent, fair basis, competent basis, also on the basis of justice, so that not just me, but veterans like me don't get pushed through the cracks. But just because I feel that way, and that's what I wish to see happen, that doesn't mean that I want, like I said, I don't want the city destroyed. I don't want the country destroyed. I want things run with competency and justice and fairness. And that's a big hell of a difference between saying what I just said and then saying that, oh, well, the hell of it, I just want to blow up everything. I think eventually I will finally be able to get a job interview and finally get a position. But until then, I'm going to keep working my butt off, doing the part-time jobs that I'm doing, and redoing resumes. And it's damn difficult, but I'm sorry, I don't want to see my country destroyed. Just because you have people here that take advantage of veterans in terms of employment, right? And that's the same thing that I would like to say to those folks in Ohio, Michigan, and PA that mistakenly voted for Trump in 2016. It's one thing to say that you want the system shaken up, but it's entirely different when you put somebody in there that wants to tear the system apart. I don't think anyone here wants to tear up our Constitution. I know I sure as hell don't. And I believe that the majority of the American people feel the same way. Yet that's all that we've gotten since this guy has come on the political scene. And it's not helpful. It's not helping our kids. It's not helping our families. It's not helping us. And we really need to make it stop. Now, this business that I started off with, talking about the interview with Stephanopoulos and Trump, I don't understand what's happened. Well, I'll put it this way. I do understand what's happened. The question is why, okay? Because I think that any other president, especially, who was the last person to occupy the White House? The black guy, okay? Barack Obama. Now, can you imagine if in the course of an interview, this guy said, yeah, well, sure, if I get opposition research from a foreign government, yeah, I will take it. And I'm not telling the FBI. Now, can you imagine if Brother Obama had said that? Believe me, there would be a tree that would magically sprout up on the White House lawn with a rope attached to it. And you know that as well as I do. Yet this guy Trump can say what he said and just about the whole Republican Party. You hear crickets chirping. The sound, what was that, Simon and Garfunkel? The sound of silence. And I think that is just so damn disgraceful and so sad. It truly is. Because this guy says, yeah, well, suppose Norway had something to say. Well, listen. And all this crap about, oh, well, Donald's new to politics. All right? Listen, Republicans, save that crap for people out in the Midwest that don't know any better. And I say that not to be insulting. I say that because it's true. Because those people, most of them, they have no idea about the Trump family, okay? And the crap that they have pulled. Also, you don't become a big-time, huge real estate type in New York City if you're not political and if you don't know how to, bob and weave in the thing called politics. All right? And I think I'm safe when I say any elected official out of the state of New York will tell you that, Republican or Democrat. So we're not talking about some innocent baby here. We're talking about a grown-ass 73-year-old man, okay, born and raised in the lap of luxury. No stranger to civil courts, criminal courts, okay? My God, you talk about a record, okay? I believe that Donald has been in adjudication something like about 4,000 times. He's either taken people to court or himself been taken to court. So we're not talking about, like I said, we're not talking about an innocent little lamb here, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, what adult, especially one that loves to boast about his university education, does not know that the United States and Russia have been at cross points, okay, since what, 1917, with a timeout for World War II, all right, from 41 to 45, all right, when we were allies. And very good allies, okay? Russia did a hell of a job fighting the fascists, okay, in World War II. I'm not, as a matter of fact, they bled the most, and that's a fact. But what is also a fact is that we have been at odds with them from the time of their inception in modern history. We tried to stop the Communist Revolution in 1917. We actually sent troops to attack the Bolsheviks, okay? Didn't work, but that's what we tried to do. So you're telling me that this grown, magnificently educated man, I mean, he says he's magnificently educated, so okay, I'll dance with that. But you're going to tell me that he doesn't realize that we have been adversary nations between each other for the longest, and he doesn't know that? And what he does, he says, oh, well, if the government, someone in the government from Norway had information from me, he picks Norway. The dude has a thing about Norway, all right? Remember? One minute he's saying that, no, we don't want any more immigrants. We're full, okay? And then the next minute, he's asking, well, damn, how come we can't get more people from Norway to immigrate to the United States? Well, for one thing, they take a look at you and they say, well, damn, this is potentially what happens in the United States. Not potentially, but does. And I will tell you right now, most Norwegians do not want to be associated with any type of political system that can produce a Donald Trump. So if your goal was to have more people from Scandinavia immigrate to the United States, you yourself are one of the causes as to why you're not going to see that happening. Okay? But, all right, we'll put that on the side for a moment. Yeah, he talks about Norway. Now, everybody knows, and when I say everybody, I'm talking about people that read the newspapers, okay, or follow the media, cell phone, computer, whatever, right? Basically, the cloud that is hanging over his head, and will continue. If he lives to be 200, he will always be known as the president that got help from the Russians to get elected. And if he somehow, God forbid, but you never know, if he wins next year, it will just be said, yeah, well, he figured out a way for the Russians to help him get reelected. And I'll put it to you like this. There are enough facts that raise enough questions so that suspicion hangs extremely heavy over his head, right? Now, again, that's what he did to himself now, okay? But that's why it was so much BS for him to bring Norway into the picture. Oh, and by the way, I think I'm on safe ground when I say that Norway can't stand your butt, Donald. They really can't. The mass majority of them. You always get so excited about polls. Have your boys take a poll about how the Norwegians feel about you. I don't think that you'd like it. But see, just the fact that, he would say something like that. Well, of course, he said that kind of like, how would you say? He's trying to blow smoke in people's eyes because he picks a country that he knows most Americans would not see or don't see as a real adversary, all right? But see, the problem is that I think a lot of people, especially in areas where you don't get that much news, and there are areas, there are more areas like that in this country than you would, than you would believe. Because I'm surprised when I find, I hear people saying, oh, I heard nothing about that in the news. And you go to places like northern Michigan, northwestern Michigan, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, places like that. And no, you don't have the media that you have in cities like Chicago, New York, Philly, D.C., L.A., Frisco. Information is very, very slim. And see, Trump uses that to his advantage. Now, here goes the thing. And remember, for transparency, let me start off right off the bat by saying, out of the 11 years I spent in the Navy, I spent over 5 as an intelligence technician assigned to DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. Now, folks out there who are, used to watching this show, I'm quite sure that you've heard this before, but I mean that's true. I had a cosmic, top secret, with SBI/SCI security clearance. I worked in the White House and the Pentagon, and I had access to NSA, CIA, Office of Management and Budget, Atomic Energy Commission, anything, any agency that deals with the security of this nation, I had access to. And periodically, from time to time, I had to go there, sometimes to do paperwork, sometimes to take my paperwork that I might have done at the Pentagon and carry it over to the White House or to Langley. Or up to, because that's NSA. That's close to Baltimore. So yeah, I know something about national security, and I also had to do help do research so that we could present briefings. The Vice President, Secretary of Defense, twice to the President of the United States. And see, that's something that people don't get. Who do you think, all this stuff that takes place when you're talking about, security, international so-and-so treaties, what have you, all that stuff has to be produced, or to keep it simple, who do you think types all that stuff? Okay? You think the president, if there's something going on, there's the concerns about what China is doing close by the Philippines, who do you think is responsible for getting all that information to the principals? Folks like myself, some corporal, some specialist, spec 4, some petty officer second or third. That's who does it. That's why you have to have a clearance. To be even to be in the damn building, you got to have a secret clearance. And that's another thing I'm going to put on the shelf for right now. When Donald talks about, it's cool. I'm going to take the information from China, if I get it from Russia, if I get it from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I'll take it. And no, I'm not going to tell the FBI. And you can tell right there that if he thinks it's something that's going to benefit him in an election, no, he's not going to tell the FBI who contacted him or, where they claim they got the information from. He's going to keep that for himself and use it as a part of his campaign. And I swear to God, if people can't see how dangerous that is for a president that would even think in that direction, then we might as well just take this country, pack it up, and all of us go back where we originally came from. For real. Because the danger with that, quite a few dangers with that. Number one, I'm from a nation, I have something to gain by getting the United States to do something or not do something, right? So I'm going to go to the president, who we know is a sucker for compliments, and I'm going to tell him something about, hey, Joe Biden, that seems to be his biggest nightmare, Joe Biden or Senator Warren, and say, they had a family member that was involved in doing so-and-so. Donald takes the bait, right? What happens if that information is false? That's the thing. That's the thing that scares the hell out of me. You got a guy who you already know is a doofus, and then you're telling him something that is totally false. And the president, our president, is going to act upon that false information. He's not even, if you're going to be a dirty, low-down rat like that, the least you could do to protect your own butt is take that information and then maybe have the FBI check it out to see if it's true or not. But Trump would never do that, because there would be some smart ass in the FBI that would ask the question, well, Mr. President, why did you take this crap in the first place? You really don't know these people. What is their intention? Why do they feel they want to give this information to you? What do they feel they have to gain from you accepting this information and acting upon it? That is so damn dangerous. And I will tell you something, and I tell you no lie, and I don't know, I might catch hell for saying this. If I had stayed in the Navy, which, yeah, I think I wish sometimes I had. Many times I wish I had stayed in the Navy. I would have stayed in the intelligence community. And I would have risen in rank. And if I was in a situation now, as an intelligence official, either as a military person, you know, I'm going to be good to myself. I'm going to say if I had stayed in the NAV, as we call it, and stayed with Intel, I'd probably be an admiral, at least a captain, okay? Or if I had done 30 and then retired from the Navy and went into civilian Intel, you know, still working for the government, either one. And it's 2019, and we have, you know, as we have now, Donald Trump there in the White House. I would not pass on any information along the chain of command that I believe would fall into the hands of the president. I would not do it. I would either keep it to myself or I would share it with like-minded, you know, co-workers, military or civilian. But I would not, under any circumstances, pass it and, you know, use any channel that I know would go to the president. Now, I hear people right now, I can hear them. Oh, so you would, you know, disobey the laws and blah, blah, blah. And you would not report to your commander-in-chief or make sure that your commander-in-chief gets the information. And to those people, this is what I would say. Now, we have already seen, since Trump has taken office, there have been at least 3 or 4 incidents where Trump has passed on top secret information to the Russians, okay? His big mouth has even caused major security problems for our supposedly our best ally in the Middle East, Israel. Yeah, he has caused problems, intelligence problems for Israel by shooting his mouth off. And as I said, at least 3, I think it was 3 or 4 cases of him doing this. See, the thing about intelligence you have to realize is that it's the lifeblood of a nation in the modern world. I mean, at any time, if you're talking about 1776, it is highly important for a country. But especially now in this modern era, like I said at the beginning, when you're talking about high-tech resources and what have you. And to have a president that, number one, is so childish Number two, he lives in his own head. Whatever he believes is true. And that's so damn dangerous. There is no way that I would pass information on to him. And you have and I call them ignorant, these people that talk about a deep state. There's no such thing as a deep state, okay? I worked in the inner sanctum of our government. Well, it's not a deep state. It's patriotic Americans doing their best to make sure this country stays free and safe. Okay? There's no deep state. That's a bunch of campaign talk by a bunch of right-wing creeps who they still can't get over the fact, excuse me, that this country twice elected and re-elected a black American to the presidency. So around that, they have built this whole creation in their minds of a deep state. You have things that parts of the government that are classified because we don't want our enemies or our potential enemies to know certain things. Just like apparently the Korean kid, Kim, it turns out that his half-brother may well have been an American intelligence asset. And what do we have? We have Trump shooting his mouth off about that and saying, "Oh, well, we're not going to have this kind of crap anymore." Man, who the hell are you to do that and say that? See, that's another part of the problem. You don't understand. See, you think you have all these powers just because you're president. But see, you don't understand what a president is supposed to do. And that is a huge part of his problem. You don't. Basically, you let the intelligence agencies do their thing as long as they are not violating the rights of American citizens. And as long as they're not going overseas and, breaking international law. And that's the only time that you're really supposed to, publicly come out and talk about our intelligence agencies. Because as you can see, people's lives depend upon that. The lives of our country, the life of our country depends upon the intelligence agencies being able to do their job and do it competently and effectively. The way Trump carries on, he acts in such a way that, is he president of the United States? Or is he a representative for North Korea? Or does he work for Putin? Now, that big mouth in the House of Representatives who speaks for the minority, because the Republicans in the House of Representatives, they are the minority. What's his name, McCarthy? Now, the reason he disgusts me is because he's a damn hypocrite. Because in 2017, he was walking around, even cracked a joke, saying, "Damn, Trump and what was the other guy named Rosbecker? Putin must be paying them real well." And everybody laughed until, what's his name? He's gone now. Paul, the Speaker of the House, when the Republicans had the majority. I forget that guy's name, but he had to tell McCarthy to shut his damn mouth because he was hitting a nerve. Because just most of those Republicans, they realized that there was something very terribly wrong with Trump's relationship with Putin. But they don't have the guts to come out and to admit it, because between themselves and Trump, they have turned some of their constituents, they have kept them in the dark for so long that these folks, you ever have somebody that they're a liar, okay? And they keep telling lies after lies after lies. And then something happens. And then this person, he is forced to try and tell the truth. But he has had people psyched up for so long that when he's trying to tell them the truth, they won't listen. And see, that's the problem with the Republican Party today. Their base will not listen to the truth, even if they're telling them that. Well, I should say the large part of their base won't listen to the truth anymore, even from them. But see, on top of that, they have another problem, because people have been seeing this for so long that, yeah, he can have 95% or 90% popularity with the Republican Party, but the Republican Party at the same time is constantly shrinking. And I think that is just starting to dawn on him, which is why there seems to be so much panic in the White House now, especially behind those polls that his own people took and that Fox News took. Because he spent so much time cranking up his base, lying to his base, that they scared off anybody, people who have half a brain. And again, I don't mean to keep sounding like I'm just attacking people because they're with Trump. But we have to start being honest here. And anybody that is aware of the facts over the last three and a half years, okay, and they've had a chance to see all the facts, right? They're not with Trump unless they have a very special reason, like they believe that he's going to be good for them because maybe they're wealthy and, he's going to protect their whole tax setup. It's something like that, right? But the average person that can read and understand on at least a high school level, all right? No, they're not buying into that. And that's what Trump's biggest problem is. This time around, it won't be enough. I don't think you're going to find the mass majority of black folks, for example, sitting on the sidelines. Women, especially educated women, he's like kryptonite to the mass majority of intelligent women in this country. And see, that's why Trump is so terrified right now. He hasn't grown his base. You cannot turn off and denigrate women, the whole LGBT community, okay? College-educated people, African Americans, Asians, Latinos, people of color, veterans, right? He is not doing as well with veterans as people might think. You cannot piss off the whole country with the exception of working class, non-college white males who live outside of the traditional South. and expect to be a winner every time. It's not going to happen. Of course, that also depends. If the Russians get their playbook together, then he will get a second term. There was an article, oh God, I just saw it, when was it, last night, this morning? And this is what Obama should have done in the first place. The energy grid, right? Every modern country, they have like an energy grid. How things go, turn the lights on, right? Raise and lower the drawbridges and, basic stuff, okay? The United States, we have the capability to put Russia in the Stone Age. And that's what Obama should have done. Now, that's my opinion, all right? That's what the hell he should have done. And by the way, that would have served as a great lesson for the rest of the world, too. Hey, don't screw around with democracies. We're as nice as lambs, but you piss us off, and we're going to crack your balls. But good. And see, that's what should have happened. But it didn't, unfortunately. But I believe that you got enough people in the right places that if we see for sure that the Russians have not ceased interfering with our elections, hey, watch out, brother. That's all I got to say. And getting back to what I was going to say about folks that would denigrate me for not passing on intel information if I was still in the business, you know what I say to them? Well, let me remind them. When you go in the military, you take an oath. And you take that oath to protect and defend what? The president? No. The legislature from your state where you come from? No. Your church? Or what your religious beliefs are? No. You take one oath, and one oath only, to protect and defend this Constitution of the United States. And to defend that Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, that's another thing. This president has already threatened those of us Americans who are painfully dissatisfied with his way of running the country. He has threatened us by constantly reminding us that he deserves another term because of the fact that Congress and the agencies that Congress has assigned to protect our country did their jobs. And because of that, he deserves another 2 years or 4 years. And then he's always very quick to remind us, yeah, my supporters, they might be more of you, but my supporters have guns. That's a threat. And quite frankly, if any other president had said that, if Obama had said something like that, their address would change from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to your nearest federal facility, i.e. federal prison, okay? And if it was Obama, his African American behind would be in Supermax so quick, his feet wouldn't have a chance to touch the ground. So I would say to Donald Trump and to his minions, you need to, ask yourself, what is it that you're trying for? Are you trying to cause a civil war in this country? Do you think that we are afraid of you? And when I say we, I'm talking about the majority of the American people. You caught too many of us sleeping in 2016. And I'm sorry, Hillary, no disrespect, but you were not a good candidate, okay? And the guy that many of us on the left looked upon as some type of hero actually was a son. Basically, he was just he was a lousy creep working for Putin for all practical intents and purposes. And I tell you, quite frankly, as far as his extradition goes, he can stay where he's at as far as I'm concerned, because what Assange has done, he basically sold out the whole Western community, quite frankly, because no one benefits from this, these things, this thing with Trump, Brexit, Marine Le Pen in France, this clown in Italy that hates immigrants. All those folks, I hope they're getting a good-sized check from Putin, because they damn sure owe him. Putin damn sure owes them, because they are certainly doing his dirty work. He's doing, they're doing Putin's dirty work. So they deserve a good Christmas bonus, to be quite frank about it. See, Trump deserves a real big bonus. But those folks in Britain, in England, and in France, and in Italy, and in Hungary, and Poland, they deserve some nice checks also. Because the whole game for Putin is to disrupt and ultimately destroy the Western alliance. Those countries that believe that the way that nations should live, based upon liberal democracies, where the individual has a right to vote, to make his input into the government, right? That's what liberal democracies are all about. And Putin sees all of that as a threat, okay? And that's why I say, coming back to this thing about what Trump said, he's basically admitted that he got help from Russia in 2016. Now, of course, it took him over 2 years to get around to it, to admitting it, but there you have it. Because if he thinks it's okay now, after all this crap that this country has been going through for the last couple of years, it's obvious that he did it. After all this time and all this mess, and he says, hey, it's cool. If I want to get help from a foreign nation and not inform the FBI, that's fine. Well, if he feels that way in 2019, well, damn well he did it in 2016. He just wouldn't say it back then because he was afraid. And see, this is what is so disturbing, because I see people now in this country, I see a certain segment, and we're not talking about Nixon here, all right? What Nixon did, that was his own individual power grab. What we have with Trump, not only do you have a guy, and and let me say this, and I don't want anyone to misunderstand it. Comparing the intellect of Trump to Nixon is like comparing a computer to an amoeba, all right? Intellectually, Nixon was like light years ahead of Donald Trump, all right? Problem with Nixon wasn't his intellect, it was his character. The problem with Trump is that he has no character and he really has no intellect. And that's what makes him so damn dangerous. And see, I hear these people, now this is Monday, by the way, Monday. And tonight, Chris Matthews is going to have his show out in Ohio. Dayton, I believe. And I wish I could be a participant, all right, one of those folks in the audience that can ask questions. Because I would like to ask one of the, one of those kind of folks that always talk about, oh, well, all this stuff with Trump and Putin, that's that inside the Beltway stuff. And I'm worried about my kitchen table issues. Well, I want to ask that person who says that, why the hell do you think that a guy who's president and is all ready to sell us out or to sell you out to the Russians? Now, do you really think that this guy really gives a damn about you, the health care of you and your family? I mean, do you really believe that? We have a situation now where Americans are flying across the border into Canada like you wouldn't believe. They are moving like bats out of hell, going to Canada. You know why? Because the amount or the cost of getting prescription medicine for diabetes has skyrocketed so high. And in Canada, the cost is 1/10 of what it costs here in the United States. And Trump is the guy, he wants to kill Obamacare. He wants to kill the thing that says they cannot stop you, or they cannot stop you from getting insurance because you had a prior health condition. And I'm just wondering, why the hell do you think that a guy like that really gives a damn about whether or not you and your family are protected in terms of health care? I mean, to me, I don't know, maybe I just see life differently, but if you're a person and we can't trust you to obey the laws of your country, then why should we trust you or believe that you are going to look out for the things that we need? I don't see Trump stopping any firm or any company, corporation, from taking jobs out of the country. And that has been surprising for a lot of Americans. Because he made all this big talk about, well, they're not going to leave the country when I get to the White House. Well, not only is he there in the White House, but what has he done? Oh, here we go. I have to do this because I talk to you guys so much that I'll let time pass me by. But it's just something for people to think about. If I can't trust you to do the right thing, then how can I trust you to do anything? Folks, just think about it. Read. because knowledge is power. And the good Lord willing, I will see you again next Saturday, same time, same place. Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum. And thank you very much for allowing me to come into your home. Take care.